Welcome to Mindset Mastery with Julissa Edwards, the podcast dedicated to helping high performers unlock their true potential and cultivate a powerful mindset for success. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, a mindset coach and advocate for healthy high performance. Join me on this transformative journey as we delve into strategies, insights, and inspiring conversations with experts and thriving high performers. Get ready to master your mindset, elevate your performance, and create a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back. We have a phenomenal episode for you guys today. I'm interviewing Lloyd Duberry Jr. He is currently a global investment control manager within fixed income trade operations at a large asset management firm in California, where he oversees a team and also has a focus on data analytics. Prior to moving to California, he worked at a large investment bank in New York for 6.5 years. He holds an MBA in financial management and intentional economics from Pace University. This episode is filled with so many gems. I get to talk to Lloyd about how he got to be so successful in his career and what specifically has helped him get there. We dive deep into the bigger picture, the bigger reason for why it's so important to have a strong why in your career, in your goals, alongside the importance of time management. And Lloyd does an amazing job of giving us concrete examples of how he's been able to be so meticulous, utilizing his analytical brain for time management strategies. I won't share anything more. Have a listen to this beautiful conversation, and I hope you enjoy. Another guest on our Mindset Mastery podcast. Today we have Lloyd Duberry Jr. Lloyd, please introduce yourself. Give us a little background info on who you are and what you currently do in your career.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me today. So you said my name's Lloyd. Currently in the financial services industry. Specifically, I work at an asset management firm over in California. Been here a little over a year. I'm pretty much a global investment control manager, specifically within the fixed income trade operations space. Manage a small team, and also delve a little bit into data analytics. Before that, I worked at a large investment bank in New York for about 6.5 years, and I also have a MBA in financial management and international economics, from Pace University.
Yeah, beautiful. So tell me, what did you always know this was going to be your career of choice? How did you get here? Do you have a love for this kind of stuff? Well, how did you get to be in this field?
Well, from a very young age, I always had a passion for analysis and numbers, if you say. Uh, didn't want to be an accountant, so I think finance was like the most logical next step. So that's essentially how that came to be.
Okay. And did anything from your upbringing kind of gear you in this direction? I want to get to know the whole you, and we're going to talk so much about career and how you got there, but also just your interpersonal life as well. Like as a young boy, did you enjoy looking at numbers, or were you good at analyzing things?
I'll say that kind of came quite easily for me, as far as I could recall, in terms of being quick with calculations in my head, and that kind of like grew as I got older. And I remember as far back as, can't remember how young, but my mom used to work at one of the banks on Barclays, and whenever she would on occasion like bring home um, work, and she'll have a calculator punch in numbers. I'll play around trying to pretend like I know what I'm doing, which I
Oh
didn't.
yeah.
But that's essentially kind of, I think, where the desire for that particular career field came from.
Oh, I mean, I would think absolutely. So your mom was in the banking world.
Yeah, she was in the banking world, yeah, when I was younger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so would you say that that influenced a lot of that influenced your career? Do you think so?
I would say that I was, messing around with spreadsheets from about, 10, 11 years old. So I would say,
That's pretty impressive.
I would
I
say
mean, 10
probably.
years old. That's pretty impressive because even now, we have like, I'm sure you use something else, but like, I'm thinking like Google Excel sheets or Excel, like, on the computer, on a Mac, computer. And I'm sure back then when you were 10, we didn't have anything like that. So what did spreadsheets even look like for you at that point?
Yeah, it was like Windows 95, Windows 98, compared to the graphics and interfaces we have now. Very quite
Yeah.
different. I've seen some jokes or memes. Remember that little clip thing that would pop up on the different Microsoft programs back in the day. So, but for me, well, a lot of the spreadsheets, one thing I did remember in terms of, I guess you want to call it financial literacy, a lot of the spreadsheets my mom did indicate was like, kind of our projecting like a, budget. So that was also something she kind of, taught me at a very young age as well.
Okay. And so that's really good insight. I feel like I know as a business owner myself, financial literacy is something that's literally on my goal this year to be better at. This is year 3 for me roughly having my own business, and I'm still a newbie and I'm making a lot of mistakes, that I could be better at in terms
Mhm.
of budgeting and financing and all the things. So I wonder, what does your day to day look like at your job? What are you doing for your clients? What are they seeking, and how are you helping them?
Well, pretty much a lot of our work is driven by, I guess you would consider it investment groups. So,
Okay.
based on client, conviction in terms of, they analyze what's happening in the market and then, to make decisions, stuff to invest in a fixed income space. And then from there, kind of, as transactions get processed, that's essentially what my team kind of gets involved, making sure things go down to the market in terms of, going on to the different banks and stuff. That's a very simplistic way to really put it.
Yeah, that's perfect because I don't know much about this field, so probably the simpler the better. But I will be asking questions because it's intriguing. So you're managing your team that does what you just stated, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And I would guess that you have so much knowledge in this area that you're able to lead your team well when it comes to decision making processes like that.
Yeah, part of it is, getting through the day to day, but also having the foresight to understand hence the data analysis aspect in terms of okay, what's coming into the future. So for example, let's say, we're considering, bringing on additional volume because of a particular mandate that we're bringing in is like consider okay, well, how would this impact our team in terms of like say, whether resourcing or on a long-term basis, intermediate basis, or kind of move stuff around just for a particular day or week. So it's a little bit of, getting managing it through the BAU, but also having the foresight of planning for the future. So almost, existing in two worlds where there's today, there's further down the road, maybe a month away, a quarter away, 6 months or so, so on and so forth.
Okay, super insightful. So, because even, outside of business, even personal lives, because I heard you say that you work with fixed income. So, individuals who work a standard 9 to 5 who get paid the same amount every 2 weeks or monthly, whatever may have you. Is that what you meant by that?
Well, fixed income in the sense of it's, I guess you consider like a asset type. So normally,
Okay.
in terms of financial investments, on a simplistic fashion, usually they're typically uh, have equity, like stuff that you see, trade on the stock exchange and stuff like that, and your fixed income securities, which are considered OTC, or those are normally done over the counter. So those are very vanilla type of securities, and obviously there are different variations of them, and so on and so forth. But that's essentially what I meant by the fixed income security.
Okay. Okay. My apologies. Okay. So
No
I, I,
problem.
I would, I'm a newbie to this, so I'm gaining so much insight from this conversation. So as a healthy high performer, before I go into what I feel that is, what do you feel composes of a healthy high performer, and how do you exemplify that in your work?
I would say a healthy high performer is someone that's able, where they can, trying to find balance and always have a foundational why of, why you're doing what you're doing. Because, some people might say, like, hey, I'm doing it for some type of, financial, benefit. But then it's like, at a certain point when you think about it, for example, athletes, let's say if a particular athlete was lazy before they got a nine-figure deal, that nine-figure deal definitely that's just not going to turn them into a very hard-working person. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, greater financial gain essentially just reveals more of who you are. And so for me, in terms of managing and also having a team, it's more so just trying to be a good mentor, coach to the team, but also being a resource for my team. Like, hey, like I'm here, for you guys. What do you need me to do? Help you out. I'm here. So even though the hierarchy may indicate that I have direct reports, it's more so how can I be of better service to the individuals that are, I guess you say, entrusted to have me as their manager.
Mm. I love your response. So I gathered a couple of things from your summary. So the first thing I heard was that you really have to love the role that you were in primarily, like love what you do, have passion for what you do regardless of the title, the income, or any prestige that may come with that.
Yeah.
Because you're saying that to be a healthy high performer, our ego really can't get into the mix of that, or else there's a lack of balance.
Yes. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you overcame struggles like that you're able to give that kind of a response, or have you seen it upon leaders before you that there was an imbalance?
Yeah. I've seen imbalance where unfortunately sometimes people get burnt out. Where they see their vibrance and it's almost like a candle burning out where you just see that gradual decline, or even sometimes it could be a very dramatic and drastic decline. So kind of seeing it, you know, just being around different folks, and also seeing it healthy where how people have always kind of stuck to their why. Okay, well, why am I working so hard? Why am I doing this? So, and that's kind of been the, that helps them maintain that passion to really keep moving forward and doing more and progressing as they go forward.
Beautiful answer. So, what do you think has helped you achieve the most balance in your time? Because, as you stated before in your introduction, you've, of course, escalated in your career. And so, has balance looked different for you maybe 3 to 5 years ago than what it does now? And how have you tailored this kind of lifestyle to fit your career at this point in your life?
I would say, like for me, I try to find some quiet time. For me, I'll read my Bible, try to stay grounded, and I think it helps where you have a an environment that kind of enhances that. So it could be like a supportive family, where, for example, whether let's say it's professional or even school, where sometimes time has to be sacrificed to a certain degree. So let's say if you have to kind of allocate time to really get something done, if your family, your significant other, whether it be wife, boyfriend, etc., if they understand that, okay, this is where we are, and you just need this time to really get, that really helps. But if you're in an environment where, everyone's kind of pulling for your time and no one wants to, no one understands that, hey, I'm working towards like a larger goal, then it could be really difficult and it causes a lot of friction. So a lot of times it could be where you yourself, you have the stuff that you're working towards, but you also have those that are around you that are, within your immediate circle that also support and give you that space and to kind of nurture the things that you're working towards. I think that kind of helps in terms of the balance.
Okay, I love that answer. So, creating a supportive environment. And I guess with that would come a good sense of communication between
Yeah.
you and those in your immediate circle.
Yes.
Um, has that come easy for you?
Uh, I think it's a give and take, in the sense of sometimes when you're so singularly focused on parts, achieving a particular goal, then everything is secondary. And it could also be where if you try to focus on too many things, you almost find like you almost spin your wheels and you attempt a lot of things, but nothing gets done. So So just a give and take where you could, listen to those you trust and able to confide in where if they think you're, going too much a particular way, kind of like reel you back in a little bit. So I guess you have people that you consider that you're accountable to because, sometimes if you're not really considering like what's outside of your quote unquote blind spots, then, some things may fall to the wayside. But, for whatever it may mean, sometimes, we think of like, say, greatness requires sacrifice. And sometimes one thing that we sacrifice is time doing other things. Not to say where
Mhm.
it's going to be a forever timeline, but for particular seasons of your life, in order to like achieve certain things, you have to really focus on, okay, well, what's priority? Once I complete this, then I could, really focus on some other things going forward.
Yeah. So I love that answer. So I'm hearing a lot of, you have to be committed to the bigger vision, right? If you want to get to X place in your life, in your career, or whatever goal it is that you are aspiring to get to, it's going to come with some focus and
Yes.
clarity and time to put aside. And hence why we spoke about the importance of communicating those needs to your inner circle so that they can understand that this is my goal at this time, and it would be great if you could support me in this. I'm going to be
Yes.
carving out X time to do X thing, and everybody kind of has to be on board. And I would imagine for everybody to be on board, you, the visionary, the person that's going after this thing, has to be very clear as to why it's so important to you.
Yeah. And sometimes that may not be the easiest thing where you could share your vision, whether in detail or just a snippet of it.
Mm,
And those that you love, trust may not see it as well. They may
right.
dissuade you from it. So you may figure out, okay, what can I share? What shouldn't I share? You may tell them,
Mm,
okay, I'm just working on something, and that may leave it alone. And there also might be a situation where you may share something and you get that constant question, okay, well, where are you? Where are you? And it's like sometimes people like don't really like that. So you might share enough so that they don't ask too many questions, so that at the point where you achieve your particular goal, you could kind of just tell them, okay, I've done
mm.
this. I'm on to something else. So I guess it depends where you share too much, then those you love, based on them caring about you, not wanting you to see you get hurt if you were to fail. Let's say, for example, you were to start a business or something like that, and you may have relatives and friends that may have also started businesses, and their business may have failed. They might be the first persons, just out of concern, to dissuade you from, pursuing a particular venture,
Mm.
or they might not see any particular results, and that may cause them, just out of concern, to ask you, let's think about it, let's say every day, every other day, every week. And for you, it might just be like a constant, I'm going to call it nagging, or like a mental toll it takes, where it's like they're asking, but then you don't have any tangible results that you could really share with them.
Yeah, I think this is so relatable because I think, a lot of our listeners are going to be they're high achievers themselves, just like us, and they want to go after things, but realistically, sometimes there are bumps in the road. And so just in the way that you're responding to me, Lloyd, it sounds like you've had either a lot of practice or a lot of experience with knowing how to navigate certain conversations, and like how much do you truly let people in so that you can maintain your energy to be committed to your larger goal. Being able to read people and know, like, okay, this person, although they may love me and want the best for me, they may not need all the information because it may deter me from, getting to this task or whatever may have you. And it seems like you've had a lot of practice, like respectively, like reading people and knowing how much to give, but it's all ultimately so that you can be focused.
Yeah. And also based on my experience, I realized it was, I guess, not the norm in the sense of, well, if you just kind of look into at things through your lens, you might think, okay, well, everyone has like kind of the same, family dynamic and stuff that I may have. So, for example, whether it be in school or professionally, my family, unless it's an emergency, they probably won't call me like during, I guess, what you consider like, say, peak work hours or something like that. And then, speaking with others, it's like, no, my family doesn't respect my times. Like, if they want to talk to me, even if it's just something they say it's on, like, I don't know, like social media, something that's trending, that's not really of any significance. They're gonna call me, they're gonna text me, they're gonna blow my phone up. And me seeing all those calls, I might think something's wrong, but then it's not. It's a kind of trivial conversation. So for me, well, my family kind of respected that. Where okay, well, and one thing I used to do, especially back in college days, I would send, I would do an Excel, um, you know, uh, time sheet, if you may, of my classes for every semester, and I'll email it out, and that was an indication that okay, well, I'm available outside of these times, and for the
Mm.
most part, my family kind of respected that,
Wow.
where they'll probably reach out to me, or send a text message where it's not really urgent, or if there's a call, they'll call me outside of those particular time frames.
Okay,
So for
so
me,
that's
having those,
amazing.
so having
Okay.
that support from my family in the sense of okay, I'm working towards something to kind of give me that space to really focus in. I think, speaking with others, I thought it was a normal thing, but I was somewhat
I was gonna
grateful
say,
for.
I was just gonna get into that. So I think having known you in a distance, right, for all these years, and just knowing like I'm really good at reading energy and individuals like personas and things of that sort. And it seems like if you were to say those things, it's so easy for me to respect it, right? Even though we're not super close, if you I could imagine even in college, and college is such a wonderful crazy time of there's so much going on, right? And even from that early on, using your Excel sheets from your 10-year-old self, you were still able to so you've been effectively communicating your time boundaries, which is something that so many people struggle with so much when it comes to personal life, love life, career, like kids, all the things. You've done a really good job of it's your demeanor, and like you're not shoving this down somebody's throat. It doesn't feel that way. It's just like, hey, I took the time to create a schedule that shows us all when I'm available and when I'm not. I
Hmm.
would imagine it one, it keeps you focused, Lloyd, and then also it gives everybody in your inner circle a really good time reference of like, when can I hit up Lloyd? And I
Yeah.
would imagine that if even if they were to hit you up in times where you were in class or whatever may have you, your response and demeanor still exemplifies that, hey, I wasn't answering you because, as per my schedule, I was
Hmm.
in class.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that there was not too much of you teetering the lines. Like, for example, in a business or at work or whatever yeah, let's just keep it to work. Sometimes you can say that, I only work 9 to 5 or whatever your boundary is. But if you're answering emails afterwards, then it gives the other opposing party or your clients or your coworkers, it's a very blurred line of like, wait, well, are you done working at 5 or are you
Yes.
not? Right. And
Yes.
so you've done a good job maintaining to your schedule or sticking to your schedule.
Hmm. Yeah. As best I could. And obviously there'd be like deviations, from time to time, but at least when you kind of like level set where, hey, this is what I can do, this is what I can't do, and then, kind of leave it out there to respect it. But, like I said, I've heard a lot of stories of folks where, they've kind of did similar things, and it's like they didn't even tell anyone, like, because, the loved ones don't respect it at all.
This is really, really amazing information. So I want to ask you, Lloyd, how it seems that this was never an issue for you. It seems that it seems like you always respected your time. Like you have a very calm demeanor. It doesn't seem like again, you're enforcing these boundaries on other people. It's just like, this is just what is. And that's just it. And it seems that people just run with it respectively, right?
Hmm.
Which is me being a life coach, a mindset coach, and a therapist, like that is not the common experience for most human beings, right? And so I love that you've been able to garnish this for yourself effortlessly, it seems like, throughout your whole lifespan. So I wonder what's made you so I guess maybe the word is confidence, but it's really just grounded. What's made you so grounded and the importance of your time?
Um, I'll say just realizing like how precious it is in terms of, you know, like some life experiences that really taught me the importance of things could like change in a blink of an eye. You know what I mean? So it's a sense of like, hey, obviously we may fall short, whether it be, I'd say, procrastination or, putting stuff off from time to time, but just realizing that, hey, this is one. Think of, life, we all get like two investments, kind of bring it back to finance.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has time, and you may not have a lot of money, but you may have some money. So even though you may not have, let's say, money to make investments, you do have time, and a lot of time, how you invest your time ultimately determines, how your time is either essentially used through your own to your own benefit or the benefit of someone else. So I'll say, how you invest your time and your money kind of has a impact in terms of let's say like the quality of life and so on and so forth. But for me, I would say just kind of the environment, my family, kind of like created for me, where like kind of within my little bubble, it's like this is the parameters that they kind of allow me to operate in. And I was fairly successful within it, and for those that are around me, I kind of do the same for them. Where for me, it's always like two things. I'm always accessible, but I'm not always available. So in the sense of, some people always tell me like, how you manage to like keep up with, sometimes I'll do a little check-in with, those, say someone crosses your mind. Say I'll check with, for example, when not in college anymore, where you could just see people every day, but then you got to realize that, sometimes just that, reach out or saying hello might be the first kind thing that someone may have received in a long time. So I try my best to manage my time accordingly. I won't say it's a perfect science in the sense of sometimes I may have like that tunnel vision where kind of just focusing on a particular goal, and some things get I guess left behind or neglected, if you may. But I try to do my best where I can.
Beautiful. I so many gems there. I think the biggest takeaway is it's such a powerful yet respectable statement coming from you that I am not I'm always accessible but not always available. That's what you said,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yeah, and I love that because again, it's not that you're putting down your foot in an aggressive manner saying like you can't contact me here. It's just like you can always contact me. Just know that I'll
Hmm.
probably only respond to you during these times.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So I another something that a lot of people struggle with is remaining devoted to their larger goal, especially if it's something that's going to take a lot of time and across the accumulation of years for you to excel more and more, which is how you got to where you are now in your career, right? How what is something that you can give as advice for how to stay committed, and or have you ever struggled staying committed? Like have I'm thinking in college, like were there, activities that you wanted to do and maybe you didn't always do you, actions that completely supported the larger goal? Or have you always been good at dividing your time and having time for social activities and also remaining committed to the larger picture?
Uh, I'll say, sometimes it's kind of hard to find that balance because you may want to, jealous to like, quote unquote YOLO, you only live once. But then you think of like, well, let's say if you had a particular failure, a particular bump in the road, usually what happens is you think back on, let's say if you're an athlete, you think back, okay, well, the times I didn't go to the gym or didn't work out or stuff like that. So you start thinking of like the times you didn't do something and how those compound effects over time could affect, your performance where you may have not achieved a particular goal in that particular moment in time. So I guess for me, that kind of goes back to having that strong why because not everything is going to go your way. Some things may take longer than others, and others may have a shorter timeline than some. So you just continually do your best. And at the time where you fail, failure is just an opportunity to recalibrate, assess, kind of see what worked, what didn't work, and then kind of keep moving forward. Usually, they always say like it's best to fail forward and fail fast because sometimes I'm sure in your professional career you've come across persons that may be high achievers and they have that first major failure or setback like later in
Yep.
life, and it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like it kind of quote unquote blew up their spot. Like they
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to do, they don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
manage. So and
Mm-hmm.
then you also find a persons that kind of fail early on in life. There, once those additional failures happen, like later, they would kind of look at it as like a stepping stone or a pivot point. Okay, well, okay, I was doing it this way. Maybe I need to tweak my approach, and they kind of move forward from that. So, yeah. So I always say like failure or setbacks will happen, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not really that okay, it happened to you, but it's more so kind of using as a fuel or kind of increase your drive to really whether you change your approach or kind of propel you forward to achieve that goal even more.
I think that's beautiful, and it's just correlates perfectly to this podcast. So this is all about mindset mastery, right? And I would say that failure is inevitable, right? For all
Yeah,
individuals, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes. It's just a matter of how you bounce back from it, your resiliency, and how you view it, your mindset towards it. And it just seems that for you, Lloyd, you have such a grounding energy, and it seems that you're very neutral, which is a huge plus for data, right? Like when you receive data from something that maybe didn't work in the past, it's just like, okay, now we know what's not working.
yeah,
Versus, people are so complex and beautifully different that even if we have another high performer that's completely the opposite, they may have achieved a lot in their lives. Usually, those of us that are very ambitious, like we do achieve a lot. It's just your mindset of like how much grace have you given yourself throughout hard times? How much have you been able to look at your life's data from a neutral standpoint, right? Not really attaching emotions to it, to be able to propel us forward. And there's so many high achievers that they are doing amazing things, and you're absolutely right, like they have that one huge incident in their life where it's like they feel like they fell flat on their face. And it happens to all of us, right, at some point of our lives, in some pillar of our lives. And it's just a matter of, okay, like how can we recollect and learn from this experience, which again, your energy is just so very grounding, and the word that's coming from me for you is just you're very neutral, which makes it very easy for you to look at what really happened and, okay, what can I tweak to make sure that when we do it again, it goes a little bit better for us this time.
yeah. And sometimes like that neutrality or having that even keel um, and that analytical mindset could be off-putting to some folks where
I would
it's like,
imagine so.
hey, the house is burning down. Like, why are you so calm? Like, well, having a very emotional response this particular moment in time is definitely not gonna do anyone any good. So let's go through the checklist. Like, this is going wrong. How can we? These are the issues. How can we kind of move from there? And obviously, especially for example, in a team environment, it's good to have that balance of of course, you'll have your folks that are very emotional, kind of go is like helter skelter, like hey, freaking out, and then balance it with those folks that are more even keel, more logical, thoughtful in terms of how they approach and find those team dynamics really help in terms of kind of helping things move forward.
Okay, so bringing it back to your industry and your career and work, do you feel that you have a good sense of reading people for their strengths, like on your team that you're leading, and utilizing different individuals to fill in the spots where maybe you don't have, let's say, the emotion piece of things. It's not your strong suit. Will you have other individuals come in there and share their light and have them lead in that manner because you know where to put people to better serve your team?
Yeah, because I always preach there's always a balance of two things. There's your technical skills and your soft skills. So
Hmm.
very early on in your career, obviously the technical skills have a premium, soft skills, not so much.
I
However,
love
as you
that.
start to make that upward trajectory, the soft skills become more important in the sense of, okay, do people like working with you? Do people like working for you?
Mm, for
In
leadership.
terms of, yeah, leadership. So I always tell people like, hey,
Mm,
well, the technical skills are good at this early stage of the career. Start developing those soft skills in terms of, and because it'll definitely give you a good foundation as you start to move up that that corporate hierarchy or like whatever your particular career field is. Yeah, so
what
I'll
a
say it's a
great
balance
piece.
where,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not an exact science in terms of kind of having, knowing where people should probably, sit and fit. But I'll say just having that open dialogue and, expressing to them like, hey, this is my thought process and kind of walk them through it. And also, give them that space and freedom to also give you their candid feedback as well. And then you guys, work together to really figure out, okay, we think this works strategically best, not only for your development, but also for the betterment of the team. So, for example, let's say an employee says, "Okay, hey, I'm really timid with my public speaking," like, and then I could go back and ponder about it. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to set you up with opportunities to really showcase your skills and abilities, but also more importantly, to develop that muscle of your public speaking abilities, and we kind of do it gradually. So, kind of understanding like, hey, these are my areas for improvement, and then let's gradually kind of helping them, putting them in uncomfortable scenarios so that they could all, not only grow, not only help them within the confines of, my team, but as they grow their career and move on, it'll be a skill that they could leverage, wherever they go.
I love that. And I love your piece of advice for, in the beginning of someone's career, tactical skills are really necessary. And that's so true because in the beginning of your career, you're starting at the bottom, respectively
Yeah.
so, right? And
Yes.
so you have to prove to others that you know what you're doing on a tactical
Hmm.
level. And as you grow in leadership, yeah, you most definitely need those soft skills. And that's not a more appropriate time. You can always focus on doing both, but it's more needed as you climb up the ladder. So
Yes.
to bring it back full circle, you had said in the beginning of this interview that the to help you stay really committed to your goal, you have to have a big why,
Yeah.
right? And if you could tell us a little bit about what your big why, how that helped you get into your field, rise in your career, and how your why specifically has helped you elevate throughout the different stages of your career.
I'll say part of my why is kind of like, kind of coming from like, I would consider like, I guess, humble beginnings per se, in the sense of understanding like the historical aspect of the things my family's been through over the years. Kind of hearing stories from grandparents in terms of they had that entrepreneurial mindset. So I was thinking like just to hey, a lot of people that open a lot of doors, so I could have a lot of opportunities that I have now. So um, innately, the least I could do is, just do my best. To always kind of throw on the cliche of like, hard work. But for me, it's like, well, hey, I'm able to, work from home on occasion, not 5 days a week, but, at least 2 days a week. And think of, those that came before me, that wasn't even an option. Like, hey, you work, let's say during the pandemic, everyone was home, um, 5 days a week. Think of people, I would say farmers and pretty much like laborers that didn't have that opportunity. So for me, for those that didn't have that educational opportunity, or say the um, certain white collar or professions, not to say blue collar work, not to shun that, but a lot of opportunities that I have, that's kind of what drives my why. Where sometimes like, man, I'm doing all this work, but I think of, well, man, just kind of like living out your
Your
those that came
ancestors.
before you, like your ancestors and wildest dreams, as they typically say. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to keep the legacy going forward, so that when I have, great grandchildren and so on and so forth, just leave a like a, lasting positive legacy that they themselves could essentially build upon. Where when someone says my name, it means something. You know what I mean? So it's kind of taking it from that perspective.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I know that's a very big why, but that's just kind of like
You
kind of
need the
what
big why, right? Like,
kind
you
of
need
what
to, it is a very big why.
keeps me moving. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, beautiful. And then have, as you've can you walk us through what like elevation or a change in leadership looks like for someone in your career?
Yeah, so for me, essentially, you kind of like start moving up the ladder in terms of, I guess you consider like, say, title changes, the sense
Hmm.
of, you have, VP, director, and so on and so forth. So that's essentially, that'll be like my, career trajectory. So when I was in my previous firm, I made it to, the VP level and I came over here. So just be kind of building upon that, where obviously there'd be more responsibility, larger teams, and as the financial industry is changing, a lot of dynamics, things are almost exponentially changing every time you look around. So that keeps it interesting. Always something fun and new to learn and to grow from. So I'm really excited for what the future holds.
Beautiful. I would imagine also, larger impact, right? More responsibility. You're leading more, a larger team. And to go back to your why of like someone seeing your name and them and it having, value and meaning and perhaps a story behind it, the more that you rise in leadership, the more people would know your name and you would have that opportunity to make a larger impact on people.
Yeah, I guess it kind of takes a full circle as well because recently, um, and also like sometimes in terms of high performer, it's always good to I guess consider have like a like a board of directors around you, kind of going back to like person that kind of holds you accountable, or
Yeah.
also persons that are have your best professional, I guess in a professional sense, or professional interests at heart. So
Hmm.
like recently, I was I was about to leave work, and a colleague of mine, was passing a building, and they rushed out and they said like, "Hey, I need to meet someone." And it was one of the recruiters that kind of manages like, you know, the internship for our company for, and it's like, "Hey, we're having this, forum for summer interns next week, and we need someone to speak about personal money management." They said, "Well, I couldn't do it, so I mentioned your name." So, the lady, I met her, over the next couple of days. So essentially, they told me on Wednesday I had to essentially present it the next Wednesday. So like a short time to really get everything together, create like a whole PowerPoint, all that. So I kind of, say that to say what it's always important to have persons that, when opportunities arise that are able to like, mention your name
Yep.
in rooms that you may not even know exist. And a full circle moment for me was, some of the advice that, maybe you said, I wish I had, very early on as a, whether it be a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior in college, speaking to all those interns. So essentially, it was all interns for my entire company. And, it was presented to them about personal money management. And what was interesting, based on, my personal experiences, some good, some bad, I was able to give them from like a personal perspective, like, hey, these are some things you should really consider. So it was, I guess, interesting and strange. Where after some of them were coming up to me, asking questions like, "Hey, it was really insightful your talk. My financial literacy level is at this, but you made it really practical. I could really understand it. I don't really feel bad now because understand I have time." So for me, it was a for me it was a full circle moment in a sense of like wow, because you might think like you're just doing your thing, but you never understand like the impact you may have on hearing coming from someone else or a third party.
Yeah. Well, that makes me happy because it just feels like you're really living in your truth and the goals that you have set out for yourself, your big why is coming to life, full circle, like you said. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, because in terms of from a biblical sense, they always say like, the Lord orders your steps. So if I could tell you that it was definitely a straight line, that yes, I definitely saw this would happen this way, this would happen this way. I'll definitely be lying to you because sometimes some doors just kind of opened up. So it's like, you do as much as you can with what you have, and then, sometimes half the battle, or I should say 90% of the battle, is just kind of like showing up and just being prepared. And then, for whatever reason, you call it, divine positioning, divine intervention, stuff, John, just seems to, happen in your favor. So, part of that whole aspect of like failure, sometimes it could be a blessing in disguise where it could just be could not be the worst thing to have is to have a blessing and not be ready for it, because obviously then it become a curse, or trying to pursue something before it's the right time, and then becomes like a dread to you. So from that perspective, I'll say like, hey, don't get discouraged because everything is going to happen at its appointed time.
Oh, what that is such a beautiful way to wrap up this segment of the interview. So, yeah, so I what stood out to me the most was you talk more. So you said that a blessing, the worst thing that could happen is that you not being prepared to receive a blessing. Oh my God, that's such a, this concept of like always staying ready, but within balance, but you always trying to put
Hmm.
your best foot forward so that when your time comes, you're ready to receive it. And
Hmm.
that if something isn't working out and the cards aren't aligned for you at that time, that it's okay. Whoever it is that you believe in, your higher power, God, universe, your spiritual beliefs, that know that something bigger than you is setting up a greater plan for you, and to just remain faithful, right? That's beautiful. So I have one more question to wrap out this interview, Lloyd. You've been so helpful, inspirational. I hope that anyone listening feels your grounded energy, because I know I do. I'm like I'm usually a very grounded person, but you're even more grounded. So I'm like, we are so feet are on the floor planted. I am feeling good. So one last question that I always end to give our listeners a real experience, because you're coming on here as an expert, as someone who is flourishing in their careers, and you have so much wisdom to provide to us, which you have, and we're so appreciative for that. And I want to also recognize you as a human being who is still, going through their own, whether career or interpersonal battles. And what's something right now that maybe you're struggling through or finding some adversity in that you could use some insight on at this time?
Yeah, I would say, one thing I'm trying to, I guess, find some balance in is, based on a lot of times through life, how you see certain situations, it's usually kind of dictated by past experiences,
Okay.
whether it be positive or negative.
Yep.
So for me, having like a lot of experiences in the sense of, going back to what I was talking about, things changing, like say in a blink of an eye. So, if you think of, let's say, over the years, so, I was born in an island called Montserrat. And, back in '89, there's like a really large hurricane that happened called Hugo. So really destroyed like a lot of the islands. So this was, I was like about a baby at that point. So that was like first, I didn't really know what was happening, but think of, that was kind of my first exposure to, I guess, a traumatic experience like that. Then fast forward when I'm about, 6, 7, there was an active volcano. So currently, even to this day, Montserrat's one of the few places in the world that has a active exclusionary zone. And because, essentially a third of the island is inhabited, and the two-thirds is kind of quote unquote unsafe. So
Okay.
that's, before 10 years old, like two experiences. And then obviously, before I started grad school, I had to get eye surgery, both of my eyes. And that was like, you went in,
I didn't know
you
that.
know, yeah. So essentially, I would say probably, it was probably weeks before I had to start grad school. I went to, see a retina doctor, and he was like, well, you're gonna have to, you won't be going to school this fall. You have to take a surgery because, your retinal detachments, both your eyes. So
Wow.
in those instances, it was like things kind of change in like a split second or in a very short period of time. So because of that, for me now, it's kind of like, well, some people kind of build anticipation for like some things that are happening. So for me, kind of like the logical sense will kind of like kick off a lot more for me in those instances because now like, okay, well, I'll work towards it, and once it happens, it happens. Not to sense because of those experiences that happened in the past where like something you don't see coming happens, or let's say in the sense of, grad school, you think of, okay, I got in, preparing, about to start school in a little bit, so the anticipation is building, and then something you didn't foresee happening comes, and then that dream is, I guess, deferred. So for me, in those instances, it's kind of, I guess you could say, hindered where I don't really build that anticipation. It's like once it's here,
Mm,
then I'll enjoy that moment. But I try not
mm.
to really kind of indulge in that because I've had, so many instances where things have kind of changed dramatically, where it's like no one sees it coming. It's like this happens and then it kind of changes your perspective. So kind of, I
Yeah.
guess you could say, stave off, disappointment, if you may. It's kind of how I manage those instances.
Yeah. So I have so much insight, but what would be either a question that you're looking to be answered or insight where I could, give some of my own insight into this, into your share.
Well, I'm guessing from the outside looking in, someone might look at it as like, man, that's not healthy. It's not a good way to exist where in terms of you're not building anticipation and stuff like that. But I guess for me, it's like, well, it's not that I want to. It's like, I guess it's just for me as a in the business world, we always like, hey, I'm just managing expectations where something happens that's negative,
Mm.
then it's easier to really kind of come down off the high versus you kind of like build it up and then almost kind of almost like free falling to the ground, if you may.
Yeah. So I'll ask you two questions. So I would imagine that this kind of so first I want to say thank you for sharing. And when you were telling me this your stories of different traumatic experiences that you have went through in your life, it makes complete sense, and I honor your ego for showing up in this way. This your ego has shown up in a way of like, let's not get too excited for things that may come because we don't know when it's going to come, and we can't fully be sure that it's coming until it's actually come into our
Yeah,
existence. And so I can appreciate that part of your sense of upbringing and this evolution of your ego, which is it's just a part of us that's always trying to protect us. And so our ego and usually like anxieties work kind of hand in hand because the ego is trying to protect you from all bad things, quote unquote. Right. And so he's just taking data. He's like, well, two major things happened before the age of like 10, which was the hurricane and then this volcano eruption, correct? And
hmm
then I'm sure you've had other traumas in your life, but then also this huge one with your eye surgery right before going into grad school for both eyes at that, right? And I'm sure just learning about you in this interview, I'm sure you were so ready to go to grad school. And then this big thing happened, right? And so I just want to honor your ego. He's done a great job at keeping you safe. My question for you is that it doesn't seem like this, to answer your question, like, yes, could this be off putting to some people? Like, is this the healthiest way to live your life? That's an open question. But more so, what's more important are there areas of your life where that kind of mindset is hindering your happiness, your ability to be present? I would imagine that at work it's perfect. But anywhere else in your life, is that like, is that a thing that we need to work on?
hmm Um, personally, I would say no, but that's just like from my personal perspective. But maybe if you ask, like, say my excuse me, my loved ones, they may have a different perspective, but yeah, that's kind of
Okay.
my thoughts on it.
I'll ask this for your loved ones. See, I would imagine just a guess. I would imagine that at your workplace, it makes you great at what you do, like phenomenal, right? And then I thought about the example that you gave for like if my house was burning down, like you'd be the perfect person to like not freak out. You'd be like, okay, where's a checklist? Like, what do we have to do? How do we exit the house? Like, all of those things would probably run through your mind very calmly, which is not the norm for many people. It's a superpower that you have, right? And then maybe for some other things, where emotions play a greater role, like your interpersonal life with your loved ones, like you're saying. Maybe for you, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but maybe their interactions with you, perhaps maybe they would feel that they could get more of your emotional side. Does that
Hmm.
resonate at all with you?
Yeah, yeah, that could be yeah, that could be a good thought process when you think about it.
Yeah. So I would say, because I'm only getting to like really know you. It's been like 50 minutes, right? And so I'm just picking up some context clues, but I would imagine that maybe a start for you would just
Hmm.
be to ask your loved ones, like, how would this question even sound to you? How can I be more emotionally available for you?
Hmm. I got it.
Is that like okay for you? Is that uncomfortable?
No, that seems, grounded, fairly fair. It's not too heavy, put it that way.
Not too heavy. Yeah, start simple, right? Because I think
Yeah.
that that question alone, would your loved ones ever imagine you saying a sentence like that?
I don't know. Maybe,
Okay,
maybe not. Not sure.
maybe not. Yeah, I think we could just start there. I think you just ask your loved ones, like, hey, is there any room for growth? Could I be more emotionally
Hmm.
available for you? And if so, how?
Yeah.
Right? Because maybe you're the cousin or the brother that's like, or the uncle that's like, oh my God, if I have an issue, I go to Lloyd for this thing. Like, he's great with this. Like, he can definitely
Hmm.
help me with this. But if you open up this other side of you that's purely emotion, no like strategy, no analysis, nothing, just like heart to heart conversations, which I know you're fully capable of, and I'm sure you have had them. I would just probably say that your analytical side takes precedent. He's always in the
Hmm.
front,
Yeah.
right? And so if you just, every one of us has both sides. And if you just give more fuel to this more compassionate, caring side of you, if it doesn't come out naturally, then we would ask, like in that
Hmm.
question prior, and see what your family and friends say, and then see if you're willing to do those things for them, if you're willing to hold space for them in that manner. And
Hmm.
that might make your relationships even that much better, to be more harmonious, to be closer, and to be more loving with other individuals, and organically bring out that softer side of you.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds fair.
Awesome. All right, Lloyd. Thank you so much. I had a wonderful time talking to you. I learned so much, and I think my biggest takeaway from all that you've, shared with us is that the bigger picture, to be committed long term, you have to have a big why. You have
Hmm.
to remember your why, and I think alongside that, one of your great strengths that I think people can really learn from today in this episode is the effectiveness of respecting your time boundaries, with individuals.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
So thank you, Lloyd. Do you have any closing comments that you'd like to leave with us? Any last pieces of insight or advice?
Yeah. I'll say, it's always important to find that space where you're able to be grounded, I should say, and find that balance. Ultimately, the balance looks different for everyone. You also have to do a lot of introspection to find out like what really works for you in a healthy sense to really, to help you manage. Because, of course, as you go through life, there'll be stressors. Things are not going to be always peachy, go the way you want. But being able to center yourself at those times where you're in tune with yourself and understand, okay, well, I'm under a lot of stress, maybe feeling some degree of being anxious. So finding a way to really, ground yourself where you just kind of, you want to call it like zen out, or find that quiet time where just me, let's say, taking a 5 minute walk, around the block, or whether, praying, reading your Bible, listen to some, worship music,
Yeah.
or, anything that but it's always important to understand like what that thing is for you, and being able to be in tune with yourself to recognize that, let's say if you're quote unquote being triggered, okay, I'm having this feeling or reaction, how can I, recalibrate myself to come down to a more healthier state of mind.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. That was beautiful. Well, I'm
Thank you.
super excited for everyone to share their insights with us. And if you found something in this podcast to have been really powerful, be sure to leave us a comment and let us both know how it's impacted you. Thank you, Lloyd, for joining us, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Mindset Mastery with Julissa Edwards. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive future episodes packed with valuable insights. Remember to follow us on social media at thehealthy.highperformer for more inspiration, tips, and updates. If you found this episode helpful, we'd appreciate it if you could share it with your network and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us as we continue to empower high performers like you. Until next time, keep mastering your mindset and thriving as a healthy high performer.